Hello students, welcome to the English class. Today I am going to continue with the same chapter that we left, that is Ivan tries an O level. So before beginning or before proceeding with the chapter from page number 87, I would first like to recollect what we read in the story up till now. So in this story Ivan tries an O level. I just told you that who was Ivan's. I told you that Ivan's was a kleptomaniac and which is a disease in which he had an urge to steal. And Evans had been in the prison thrice, and all the three times he was successful in breaking the jail and escaping from there. Now, the fourth time he was sent to Oxford jail, which is considered to be the safest prison from where none of the prisoner could escape, as it was under the supervision of the governor. So, in this story, we read that how Evans very smartly moved out of the prison, how he befooled the prison officers. So this story starts with a telephonic conversation between the governor and the examination board secretary. The prison authorities want to conduct an O-level exam in German language for a prisoner named Evans. So Evans, he urged to pass the O-level exam in German language. He was learning German, so all the arrangements were made for him in the prison. The arrangements for the tutor was made for Evans, and the exams were conducted in the cell. So all the facilities were provided to Evans, and we'll see that how he escaped from there. So the secretary of the examination board asked about the venue of the exam and also about the invigilator for it. So the governor replies that the exam can be conducted in Ivan's cell and a churchman will be appointed as an invigilator for the exam. Then they both then end their conversation by deciding on how and when the exam will be conducted. A senior prison officer, Jackson, visits Ivan's cell to conduct an inspection so that if any weapon may be hidden, they are going through this checking because Evans had successfully escaped from the prison earlier also. The episode gave him the name of Evans the Break. The governor was not ready to take any risk with this as it could bring a bad name to him. Jackson and Stephens checked the cell thoroughly. They had taken away his nail scissors earlier, and Jackson ordered Stephens to take away his razor blade as soon as he had shaved. Then Jackson ordered Evans to take off his hat but left it because Evans requested him not to do so, as it was his lucky hat for the exam. All sorts of arrangements were made to keep a check on Evans. Even a microphone was placed in his cell. On the day of the exam, McCleary, the churchman, reached the prison and was assisted to the cell by Stephens. The governor was informed that the exam was about to begin and that the cell did not have any weapons. The governor ordered the officer to check the churchman so that Evans may not use any belongings of McCleary as a weapon. Then the churchman and his belongings were searched. That is, McCleary, who was appointed as a invigilator, he was thoroughly checked when he entered the prison gate. Then during the search, Jackson found one abnormal thing in churchman's bag, and it was a semi-filled tube. When asked the reason for keeping it, McCleary said that he had to use it as he suffered from piles. And the exam began, and everything being spoken in the cell was constantly heard by the governor. Meanwhile, a phone call from the examination board for some corrections in the question paper made the governor suspicious. He cross-checked it by dialing the number again, which turned out to be busy. Then again, there was a phone call from the magistrate demanding for police officers and a van. Such things were suspicious to the governor, but he calmed down as he was sure of his arrangements. Then Stephens stood outside the cell and peeped inside after every minute. And it was always the same, but later on, he noticed that Evans had put a blanket around himself, though he doubted it at first, but then stopped thinking much as it was cold enough the inside the cell. And then later on the exam was conducted, and as the governor ordered on the phone, Stephens accompanied McCleary to the gate, and everything went as planned, and Stephens was happy. To be sure of himself, he once again went to the cell for a final look. He was shocked to see McCleary's lying in the pool of blood. Soon the news spread that Evans had injured the invigilator and had escaped from the jail by impersonating him. Then McCleary, who was badly injured, was taken to the governor as he had some important information. Then McCleary told the governor about the photocopy being placed on the question paper which shared the escape plan with Evans. Then governor tried to decode the German language and found out that Evans would reach Newbury after his jailbreak. And soon Superintendent Carter was called and McCleary was sent with him to catch Evans. Then both Jackson and Stephens were scolded for being aware about Evans having a false beard and the churchman's belongings in his cell. He then ordered both of them to go to St. Aldate's police station and meet Chief Inspector Bell. Meanwhile, Carter called him up to inform that they had missed Evans while chasing him and that McCleary was sent to Radcliffe Hospital. Then the governor called up the hospital and came to know that they had sent an ambulance to the examination board, but the churchman had already disappeared. Then he understood the whole plan, that McCleary, who was helping him to search Evans, was in fact Evans himself. Soon the real McCleary was found by the police, who was tied up at his house. On the other hand, Evans had reached Hotel Golden Lion and was enjoying his freedom. And when he reached the hotel room, he found the governor in his room. He told Evans that he had all of his men around, so there was no chance for him to escape again. So now we'll read further what happens. So now let's begin with the third paragraph. It says, he unlocked his bedroom door and closed it quietly behind him, and then stood frozen to the spot like a man who has just caught a glimpse of a gorgon. What is gorgon? Gorgon is fierce, and glimpse is to have a quick look. Sitting on the narrow bed was the very last man in the world that Evans had expected or wanted to see. It's not worth trying anything, said the governor quietly, as Ivan's eyes darted desperately around the room. I've got men all round the place. Well, there were only two, really, but Evans needn't knew that. He let the words sink in. Women too, didn't you think the blonde girl in reception was rather sweet? So in these lines, the word darted means to move quickly and desperately is hopeless. So in these lines, it is said that Evans unlocked his room, and when he turned back after shutting the door, he was shocked to see someone in his room. And he stood there lifeless. He had a quick look at the fierce looking man whom he had never expected to be there in his room, and it was the governor. Then Evans looked around hopelessly. Governor tells him that there is no use of it, as he had his men all around. And he was also shocked at the thought of the blonde girl at the reception who was extra sweet to him. That means that girl, that blonde haired girl, also was one of the police, the officer. Then further it says, or she was also the part of the of governor's plan. Then further it says, Evans was visibly shaken. He sat down slowly in the only chair the small room could offer and held his head between his hands. For several minutes there was utter silence. Then finally he spoke. It was that bloody correction slip, I suppose. Will the governor failed to mask the deep satisfaction in his voice. There are a few people who know a little German. Slowly, very slowly, Ivans relaxed. He was beaten and he knew it. He sat up at last and managed to smile ruefully. Ruefully is sorrow, with sorrow. You know, it wasn't really a mistake. You see, we ain't been able to fix up any hotel, but we could have worked that some other way. No, the really important thing was for the phone to ring just before the exam finished to get everyone out of the way for a couple of minutes. So we had to know exactly when the exam started, didn't we? So in these lines, it is said that Evans, he looked very much disturbed to see the governor in his room. He held his head in his hands and it was silence for a few minutes. Evans then said that it was correction slip he guessed. Then the governor tells him that there are some people who know German and they decoded the words written in German language, and Evans then relaxed over some time and explained that it was not an actual mistake as you can see. The mistake was that they were not able to decide about the hotel which they could have worked in some other way. And he asserted that it was necessary for them to know the exact at which the paper started so that they could make a call exactly before the end of the exam in order to get a clear way for McLeary. Then further it says, and like a fool, I presented you with that little piece of information on a plate. Well, somebody did. So you see, sir, that correction slip killed two little birds with a single stone, didn't it? The name of the hotel for me and the exact time the exam started. For The governor nodded. It's a pretty common word. Good job. It is pretty common, sir. Or I'd never have known where to come to, would I? Nice name though, Zum Golden in Leuven. How did you know which golden lion it was? There's hundreds of hundreds of them. Same as you, Evans. Index number 313, center number 271. Remember, 6 figures. And if you take an ordnance survey map of Oxfordshire, you find that the 6 figure reference 313 271 lands you bang in the middle of Chipping Norton. So it was very smart of governor. Governor was also very wise. He was very smart and he understood all the plans of Evans. So in these lines it is said that the governor admitted that he had provided the information to him foolishly. Evans said that the correction slip gave him both the hotel name and the time of exam. It was like killing two birds with the same stone, and the governor agreed to it. Evans then queried, how did he come to know that he was staying in the Golden Lion Hotel, as there were hundreds of them? Then governor said that the index number 313 and the center code 271 were the 6 figure reference of the survey map for Oxfordshire, which brought us in the middle of Chipping Norton. Then further he says, you are right. We'd open, you'd run off to Newbury. We did. Well, that's something, I suppose. The question paper, Evans. Could you really understand all that German? I could hardly. No, of course I couldn't. I knew roughly that it was all about, but we just hoped it would throw a few spanners in the works, sort of muddle everybody a bit. Muddle is confused or jumbled. So the governor stood up. Tell me one thing before we go. How on earth did you get all that blood to pour over your head? Ivan suddenly looked a little happier. Clever, sir, very clever that was. How to get a couple of pints of blood into a celly when there's none there to start off with, and when the invigilator, shall we say, gets searched before comes in. Yes, sir. You can well ask about that, and I don't know if I ought to tell you. After all, I might want to use that particular. In these lines, it is said that he said that he is right, but he thought that you will go to Newbury. So he thought that the governor would be misled too. He would be misled and he would move to Newbury. But governor said that yes, we had, and he asked Evans whether he was able to understand the question paper, as the governor was not able to understand it. Evans said no, he was not, but we did it to confuse everyone. The governor then stood up and asked him where he got blood from to pour on his head. Evans felt happy to hear this and said that it was a clever thing to bring blood into the cell. He then revealed that when invigilator was being searched before exam, he then stopped telling him anything so that he could use it in future too. Anything to do with a little rubbering for piles, perhaps. Evans grinned feebly. Clever, though, wasn't it? Must have been a tricky job, sticking a couple of pins. Nah, you've got it wrong, sir. No problem about that. No. Nah, it's the clothing, you see. That's the big trouble. We got the blood easy enough. Pig's blood it was. From the slaughter's house in Kidlington. But to stop it clotting, you've got to mix your actual blood. Evans took a breath. With 1/10 of its own volume of 3.8% trisodium citrate. Didn't know that, did you, sir? The governor shook his head in a token of reluctant admiration. We learn something new every day, they tell me. Come on. I'm glad, that means. Evans made no show of resistance, and side by side the two men walked slowly down the stairs. Who are the two men over here? The two men are Evans and the governor. So in these lines, the word grin means smile, clotting means harden, reluctant means unwilling, admire means praise, and resist means withstand. So the governor guessed it would be a rubbering for piles. So governor now guessed that the blood might be in the rubbering, which McCleary brought. Then Evans smiled weakly and said that it was a clever thing, and governor pointed out it to be a tough thing, which Evans felt it not to be so tough. Then governor queried, wasn't it? Evans said the main problem was to prevent it from hardening. So the blood that was there in the rubber tube was actually of the pig. And then he revealed that what he did with that blood. So he tells him that they got pig blood easily from a meat shop in Kidlington, and said that one has to mix his own blood to stop it from hardening, because after some time the pig's blood hardens. It becomes very thick and hardens. Then Evans took a break and said that he mixed 3.8% of trisodium citrate to prevent it from clotting. Then governor shook his head. Though he did not want to praise him, he said that they learn new things every day. He then took Evans with him and walked down the stairs. Then further, he says, Tell me once, how did you manage to plan all this business? You had no visitors. I've seen to that. You had no letters. I've got lots of friends though. What's that supposed to mean? Me, German teacher for a start. You mean? But he was from the technical college. Was he? Evans was almost enjoying it all now. Ever check up on I'm sir? Then, God Almighty, there's far more going on than I. Always will be, sir. Everything ready? Asked the governor as they stood by the reception desk. The van's out the front, sir, said the pretty blonde receptionist. Evans winked at her and she winked back at him. It almost made his day. A silent prison officer handcuffed the recaptured Evans, and together the two men clambered awkwardly into the back seat of the prison van. See you soon, Evans. It was almost as if the governor was saying farewell to an old friend after a cocktail party. Cheerio, sir. Your ire. I was just wondering. I know your German's pretty good, sir, but do you know any more? Oh, these modern languages? Not very well. Why? So in these lines, the word handcuffed means shackled, clambered is climb, and awkward means unease. So in these lines, it is said that governor he now asked Evans how he planned this, as he had no visitors or letters for him in the prison. On this, Evans replied that he had many friends. Even his German teacher was his friend. Governor surprisingly said that the teacher was from technical college. Evans questioned whether he had ever verified it. The receptionist said that the van was ready. Both Evans and receptionist winked at each other. Evans was then shackled by the prison officer and they both climbed the van. The governor said bye in a way as he was bidding him farewell. Evans asked him whether he knows any other language. The governor asked him the reason behind this. Then Evans settled himself comfortably on the back seat and grinned happily. Nothing really. I just happened to notice that you've got some O level Italian classes coming up next September. That's all. Perhaps you won't be with us next September, Evans. James Roderick Evans appeared to ponder the governor's words deeply. No, perhaps I won't, he said. As the prison van turned right from Chipping Norton on to Oxford Road, the hitherto silent prison officer unlocked the handcuffs and leaned forward towards the driver. For Christ's sake, get a move on. It won't take them long to find out. Where do you suggest we make for? Asked the driver in a broad Scots accent. What about Newbury? Suggested Evans. So now in these lines, then Evans, he sat back on his seat comfortably and happily, replied that he asked so because he came to know that there will be O-level Italian classes coming up next September. Then the governor assured him that he will not be with them by September. Evans thought for a while and then said, yes, maybe. Soon the van turned right from the Chipping Norton onto Oxford Road. The silent prison officer removed his handcuffs and asked the driver to drive fast. And the driver asked about where to go in his Scottish accent. And Evans suggested him to go to Newbury. So at last Evans was able to escape once again with the help of his friends who were now pretending to be a prison officer and the driver. So we can see that in this story Evans, he was much wiser than the governor, and he befooled the governor and escaped from the clutches of the governor. Because when he was being taken in the van, he had all his friends around him and he was freed from those handcuffs, and finally they all took all the person or all the people in the van were Ivan's friends. And then after that the van moved on to the destination where Evans told him to go. So this was about the story that how Evans he was successful in befooling the governor who was considered to be much smarter than Evans or much wiser than Evans. So now let us discuss the question and answers. First question, reflecting on the story, what did you feel about Evans having the last laugh? So in this you can write that Evans was a very cunning person who smartly devised his plan to escape from the jail, and he kept on misleading the police and the governor with false evidences so that nobody could reach him. And when governor tracks him in the hotel and feels satisfied about his being able to catch his prey, Evans make up another plan to escape, and this he did again with the help of his friends who impersonate as the prison officer and driver and takes him away again in front of the eyes of the governor. So we can say that Evans had the right to laugh as he managed everything very well. Next question, when Stephens comes back to the cell, he jumps to a conclusion and the whole machinery blindly goes by his assumption without even checking the identity of the injured McCleary. Does this show how hasty conjectures can prevent one from seeing the obvious? How is the criminal able to predict such negligence? So in these lines we can say, for this we can say that when Stephens comes back to the cell, he sees McCleary lying in a pool of blood, and he was badly hit on his head and the blood was dripping on his beard and clothes. Stephens was a new recruit and he was not having much experience of such tricks, and so when he saw an injured man in the cell, he, instead of paying attention to the identity of the injured person, mistook him as the real McCleary, and he at once came to the conclusion that he escorted Evans to the gate. And so the story spread like that, and everyone else in the prison also believed it to be so. Evans was being a cunning criminal, knew the weakness of all the officers, and that is why he knitted his plan in a way that things went well in his favor. So like this, now you will write the answers of the remaining questions in your own words. So goodbye and thank you. Hope you have understood this chapter.